Hey, really big show coming up. There's a little bit of Sullivan there. Nobody? Okay. But I wanted to tell you before that about next Wednesday is going to be our last live stream of the year, December 18th, a big live Christmas show, dress in formal attire. There'll be limited seating for about 200-300 people there. Sign up for the mailing list. It's available exclusively to Mug Club members. It's a variety show. Well, let me explain this to you. 3 years ago, I was waterboarded as part of a Christmas telethon. Then 2 years ago, I live streamed CNN for 16 hours. And then last year I was very sick, naturally. And so we decided we don't have to do that anymore, but we will do a live Christmas variety show with musicians and surprise guests and sketches and Santa that we will do every year from hereafter, and also raise some money for Christmas baskets. So that's December 18th, next Wednesday. Sign up for the mailing list and for details, but here's a little bit of what you missed for those who aren't in Mug Club. I ain't soft, I'm hard.
Wow. No,
hey, she can go back to spread them.
Thank you, everyone at Light Up Cutter Studios. Everyone there has a huge impact on my life, except for maybe the guy that replaced the blow-up doll. The chair feels so empty. Well, my heart goes out to you. A 6-year-old YouTube star bought a house that, in American dollars, is actually close to being worth $7.5 million. Wow. You can check it out in this week's episode of Actual Cribs.
Wow. And I gotta say, what YouTube has done to you has been ridiculous. And I'll tell you, I'm in my office right now. I sat down with the CEO of YouTube right behind us, sitting on that couch, and went after her hard for why are you guys targeting StevenCrowder? The demands are not coming from both sides evenly. It's the left that is saying censor and silence Crowder. I'm not asking you to silence Lefty.
No.
Let the socialist morons talk, and we'll engage them on substance.
This is Fisher versus the University of Texas, a question of whether race can be used as an admissions criteria at U.S. colleges and universities.
If the nation has done something special against the Negro, as we were then called, for 240 years, the nation must do now something special for the Negro. So merit is dependent upon who counts what is meritorious.
This university owes us everything. I walk around this campus understanding that this was built on the backs of my people, and I owe none of you guys anything. We owe white people nothing.
Lights are at it again. I think you're a bigot.
Oh!
I think y'all are racist. StevenCrowder. Y'all. I would probably punch him if I saw him.
I said it's not racist. And now I'm thinking maybe it could be.
A little bit. Louder with Crowder Studios. Protected exclusively by Walther.
And Betty.
I'm not dancing. I just ran a half marathon. Did you know you had to tape your nipples?
You
for
do.
that?
You do.
Yeah,
you do.
I've seen this. I found that one out the hard way.
Yeah.
And I have no more toenails.
Oh. Wow.
Why I'm just kidding. I did not run a half marathon. I love how we reduced marathon to half marathon.
I like it. My favorite's the 1/8
for the 5K. Just because we needed some non-Kenyans to place.
They still win.
Fair.
All right, thank you so much. Well, we have Tim Pool on the show today.
Oh,
that's a really big show.
Of
course, we have our big Christmas show next Wednesday, live stream. We will be well, first, okay, I have to do this. Question of the day. Want to keep it simple. Because sometimes you guys go on and your soliloquies in the comment section. I appreciate it. Keep the anti-Semitism and the racism, to a minimum. Okay,
non-existent.
Not the ones that we see in the comment section. The anti-me stuff, anti-white stuff. That's fine. So, 2-word answer. How do you identify politically, and do you believe in the idea of the deep state? In other words, I want your comment to be, an example, Democrat, no, or Republican, Yes, which will be 90% of the comment replies. I understand. Do you believe there's a significant number of people in these government agencies like the FBI, CIA, actively working to undermine President Trump at nearly every turn? Or is it a ridiculous conspiracy theory? Because I've seen people's minds changing on these topics. We have Tim Pool coming up in a little bit. We will be talking about the impeachment proceedings. My half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond, is here for safety. How are you,
guys?
sir?
How are you?
And his father is in the audience today. Quarter Black Garrett, show him your hood pass.
What's up, dolls?
I don't like it. No one watching does. No. Audio Wade is here. Too Cute Maddie on overlays. And Gerald A. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, what's depending on what the wine of the day is.
Well, it's Bubbles, right? You got to celebrate. It's Baron.
Celebrate what?
Jeez.
The new YouTube guidelines? Is
Pretty
that what
much.
you do?
Yeah, you don't
Baron de Rothschild.
And when you host your Valkyrie parties?
I do.
Right before we were on air, Gerald was talking, like, I haven't watched Valkyrie in a little while. It's like, what's a little while for you? 4 weeks?
It's been a while. I don't know.
Every Friday.
It's been maybe a while.
So we will be discussing all of this and more. But first, let's celebrate Kwanzaa. Let's come together now. It's Kwanzaa time. That was my song on Arthur's Perfect Christmas. I found out very early that was not supposed to be in the song. I was so bad at singing and rapping as the brain that I listened to the album and I'm like, all my verses are gone. Hey, come together now. You suck at singing. Thank you.
It's very clear.
Nothing
Honest
like
feedback.
being fired at 12.
It's going to happen one day.
And then, actually, I was fired at 13. They said, your voice changed. And I was like, no. Like Senior Wednesday. No, I still can do Arthur.
It happens.
I have low self-confidence. So, our top story, of course, Greta Thunberg, Times 2019 Person of the Year. This comes from NBC News. A 16-year-old climate activist is the magazine's youngest choice ever. Of course, many considered Greta to be the obvious choice, though there were some pushing for who I'm sure is now a very disappointed whistleblower.
Are you guys f***ing kidding me? I try to take down a sitting president, they give it to some f***ing guy in Sweden with a side ponytail, and she's playing hooky, getting off from school. I f***ing can't talk to my family under witness protection. They f***ing have me in at a Holiday Inn. And it's not even an express. I'm trying to take down a f***ing sitting president and I don't get my folded over f***ing egg patty? Oh, how dare you? How f*** you? Okay, how about that? F*** you and your side ponytail. And my TV here, they don't even spring for f***ing cable. It's not even premium. Well, the TV's a Zenith? Was it a f***ing Zenith? No, you know what? No, f*** this. CNN, f*** Greta Thunberg, and certainly f*** Holiday Inn. Hi.
It almost seems like he has an axe to grind.
Very bitter.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hear him.
Times Person of the Year. It's a big. So you know what? Listen, congratulations to Greta, who will now take her rightful place among some of the greatest icons of. We don't often appreciate that Hitler was the first social influencer.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody, it would be Hitler.
It would be Hitler if you think during those years. If he were around today, he'd be on Instagram going, listen, I get my Zumba. I have all the energy because of my fit tea.
Just needed to be redirected with the energy.
It has yerba mate, which gives me the energy without the jitters of caffeine. You should try it.
He's a matcha fan. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go to matcha for you. Why is he Asian? I'm looking at Hitler's Bill Richmond.
Immigrated.
By the way, can you do me a favor today, Quarter Black?
Yes.
Anytime Bill Richmond is laughing, so he gets that Asian. I want the camera on him. There is something about Bill Richmond's laughter that is contagious to me.
It's a very Buddha-esque. It's just the chubby cheeks.
I just throw change at him. Right? I don't even know why.
But I pick it all up and save it.
And then I grab a little, and he holds out his hand, and I grab a little bit of cardamom, and I go, that is a palate cleanser. So in 2020 news, A new poll shows that Hillary Clinton would overtake Joe Biden as the Democrats' top choice.
Oh, no.
So I have to look at this iPad today because there's a lot of quotes regarding the impeachment proceeding. I don't want to get them incorrect.
No.
So this is also very important, the details. According to a recent Harvard-Harris poll, respondents who identified as Democrats heavily favored Joe Biden when asked which presidential candidate they preferred. But then, when former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton was added to the mix, she came out on top of all the current candidates, garnering 21% of respondents to Biden's 20%.
It's got to suck for Joe.
Well, it should be noted, by the way, because we won't want to put too much stock in this. This was a relatively small sample size conducted exclusively with self-identified Democrats. When polling widened to the general electorate, however, both candidates did lose a three-way race to Red Skull. So that was a big thing. It was...
Oh, that's close, though. Yeah.
I mean, he's a strong leader.
Trust Nate Silver.
It's the smile. Look at those teeth.
It doesn't mean it's over yet.
That's the face of determination.
Yes. And multiple genome experiments. What is it? What is Red Skull? Captain America? I have no idea. Is it a vial?
It's a Captain America.
Is it a vial or is it Burns? I don't know.
It's probably
Who cares? Someone's going to argue about this in the comment section and forget the original question of the day. Thanks.
Make a super soldier serum.
So Ed Smart, you guys remember Ed Smart, father of the kidnapping victim Elizabeth Smart, he's come out as gay now, saying, I thought Elizabeth's ordeal was very difficult, but this one is more difficult because it not only affected Elizabeth, but my entire family. So you heard it here first. Being gay is worse than your child getting kidnapped.
Wow. Man.
Are you serious?
Dad's honesty.
Is this the Onion?
Elizabeth Smart was quoted as saying, my dad's gay? This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And you know what? Here's the thing. The family was shocked. The only people who were shocked at this revelation. But I get it. Sometimes it is hard to evaluate people, especially when you're the ones closest to them.
I'm getting hungry. You guys know where Jamal is? Jamal? Are you surprised? That's great.
Once in a while, do you get a hint that maybe your friend is that way? The way he talks, the way he dresses, the way he carries himself? It all makes you start to wonder, is your friend black? Well, now you can find out for sure with Blackdar. Simply swab the inside of your friend's mouth, send us the sample, and in 4 to 6 months, you'll get your results.
Now I can use racial pejoratives without fear. Thanks, Blackdar.
Blackdar. It's the only way.
23andMe needs to branch out.
They do. They do. You have to come up with new products all the time. Product life cycle. Let's go.
Their most favorite spinoff. Right?
There's not enough market share for candidates running who want to put down 1024th Cherokee.
What we really need is one that tells you whether the candidate actually did blackface in the past.
This is true.
Oh, yeah.
Because that stays with you.
Especially in the Canadian race.
Yeah, what's really more of a questionnaire.
Yeah. Hi, have you ever been a hypocrite? Would you like to be the Canadian Prime Minister?
You need to just do like a black
It's like a choose your own path, only it all directs you to the high school newspaper. Like, that's Trudeau. Is that Trudeau?
Every time.
He's a Kwanzaa fan.
See also high school yearbook.
It's like he did a whole year in blackface.
Hey, okay, this is somber now because it's a sad story. Obviously, a bomb blast in Pakistani mosque killed 2 and injured 14 more. A lot of people haven't covered this. After the blast, one worshiper was heard saying, "Sorry, guys, that was mine."
What it actually was, wasn't it?
Sorry, guys, that was mine. He said. The blast comes at a tough time for the Islamic Recruitment Center. Apparently, people get a little bit touchy when you start joking about terrorist bombings. I don't care. Blast comes at a tough time for the Islamic Recruitment Center as they just started running their new ad campaign titled Islam, growing at an explosive rate. And look, he is...
awkward.
Yeah, that's radical, man.
He is radicalizing. I'm going to kickflip to 72 virgins. Hey, I can't do the heel flip. I skate goofy.
It's tough to be goofy.
I don't think you can be left-handed there.
Is it?
I get it.
Because the ass wiping.
Yeah.
So here's a story about a duck.
You just reversed.
We're going to get to the impeachment proceedings and all of that.
Hold on, I
don't want to. I don't want to yet. Like, I don't want to wake up. You ever just not want to wake up? It's not because you're depressed or suicidal, but you just go, oh, I got to watch this on TV. Yeah. Shift's going to appear again.
Salon's going to write an article.
YouTube's going to change their guidelines so we can't critique it. And then the deep state thing. I don't know. Anyway, the point is, I want to die. If someone wants to help me, and here's the thing: if ever I were to take myself out, it would never be with a Walther.
No.
Just because I would never want to taint the sponsorship. Like razor blades, I don't know, acetaminophen, it would never be with a Walther.
Oh my gosh.
Although it would be very accurate.
I do everything with gusto. Here's a story about a duck named Dave who had, this is a true story, who actually had to have his penis removed after being overly amorous with the ladies.
Amorous?
Comes from the Mirror. The owner of the duck was forced to intervene after the little guy injured himself having sex with the female companions up to 10 times a day.
He's just playing, man.
Favorite duck.
The owner also, by the way, signed a book deal for his upcoming autobiography titled How to Rape Farm Animals and Blame It on Your Pet Duck. So that's pretty...
Yeah.
It's more of an instructional, really.
Same publisher from OJ's If I Did It, you know?
Pretty much. Instruction manual.
This one just says, I did it.
And this is sad. This next story is sad. A model, Miss Miami. I don't want to do it. I don't want to talk, but we have to. A model, Miss Miami, she may need her 60-inch butt amputated after getting illegal butt injections.
It's a loss.
This comes from the New York Post. She told a reality show she wanted less junk in the trunk, but says, and I quote, amputate the whole booty. I'm not amputating butts. You know what? Listen, there's something beneath the surface we need to talk about. If you make butt injections illegal, then we'll have nothing but back alley butt injections performed by Sir Mix-a-Lot, okay? We need to have safe, legal butt injections.
Rare. Safe, legal, and rare.
These are the critical issues of our time.
Especially Armenians. Over in Kazakhstan. Come on, we're going to act like the Kardashians all... I don't care.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you.
I don't care. I don't care anymore. I don't know. I assume this is already going to be banned. Over in Kazakhstan, actually, this was... is that close enough to the Armenians? Pretty close.
I mean,
I have no idea.
They're over there.
It's close enough in that it is also a place I don't yearn to visit. A Kazakhstani bodybuilder is set to marry his sex robot.
Oh, good.
Wow.
So, yeah, the man says that his relationship with Margot the doll is very much taken seriously. This is in the article. Despite admitting that they have arguments, the occasional arguments. Despite the arguments, it's still a healthy relationship.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Arguments included, by the way, the symmetry of his bicep to tricep ratio, the best strategy to add mass to his calves, and whether or not a sex robot is really convincing anyone that he's not gay.
I mean...
She wins.
Yeah.
No one's buying it.
You need a lot of lube in that relationship. So.
In entertainment, no, it's just WD-40.
That's
you
what
don't
I
even
meant.
know anything.
Why
you
do I
don't know
know
anything about sex robots?
The other thing, I meant WD-40.
Gosh, pop an instructional DVD and swap out Valkyrie every now and then.
Is it like blow-up dolls?
Put it on the rotation.
Expand your mind.
In entertainment news, singer Ricky Martin welcomed a son with his husband Juan Yosef. So congratulations to Ricky Martin. And he said that he's thrilled, was quoted as saying, "There is nothing as beautiful as the face of a newborn baby staring back at you, except perhaps a hot, hairy ass," he said.
Oh, so glad there's not an overlay.
The baby was quoted as saying, "My dad's gay? This is the worst thing that's ever happened to me."
They had Greta Thunberg?
I mean,
I'm going to have to bleep you, because that's not a name we're allowed to say. It's Stephen Merchant. Finally, before we get to impeachment, this week, a group of New Yorkers slept in Times Square to raise funds for a homeless charity. A spokesman for the group was quoted as saying, "Hey, stop raping me." It never works, by the way.
No, it doesn't. No,
that's not.
They don't so much honor requests.
Really? Yeah. What if it's like a firm? Like, no,
it's not. It's not very effective.
Right,
You'd be surprised. And by the way, actually, here we have an interview. I think, do we? We have the exclusive interview with one of the homeless men in question from this event.
Can't you just give it to me in cash? What are you going to spend all night in my off tent?
Well, there you have it, folks. Perhaps we'll never know what happened that night in the tent.
Well, that seems like we spent far too much for on the field reporting.
All the way to New York.
Seems like a
riveting, Stephen.
Misappropriation of my funds.
Riveting.
Since I signed the front of checks here, I should look at those more often. So let's go. Okay, let's go into this segment here. Has this all confirmed the idea of the deep state? Have you been following impeachment? Okay, let's start with this. This week, the Justice Department, the Justice Department inspector. The Justice Department Inspector General, Michael Horowitz. So many vowels.
There's lots of titles. What's going on?
Released a report looking into the FBI's investigation of President Trump's campaign. Okay, he was questioned about the report in a Senate hearing yesterday. Let's see that real quick.
The Inspector General found that when the FBI secretly opened an investigation into possible Russian influence of the Trump campaign in July 2016, it followed the rules about launching that kind of case. The report says the FBI's court application made statements about Steele that were, quote, inaccurate, incomplete, and unsupported, overselling his value as a source and glossing over the fact that many claims he made were not checking out.
Yeah. Claim some mistakes. That's a funny word. If you listen to some of the leftist shows, and I've been listening to, obviously, the Young Turks, Pod Save America, or reading up at Vox and Salon, they're going to try and spin this as some minor procedural errors made by low-level FBI employees. That's kind of the story that's been going out there, and I encourage you to go and read and watch further left sources, because that is kind of the narrative that they've set.
It just sound familiar to anybody when conservatives were targeted by the IRS? Oh, it's low-level people. It was a mistake. Right. We didn't do this.
Which, by the way, also lends itself to the fact that civil libertarians and a lot of Republicans always had a problem with the abuses of FISA. Right? If you could search which words we've used in this program, we've talked about Barack Obama and FISA several times. I do think it's important to be consistent here.
Yeah.
Now, have you've been following it? And you're a lawyer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, just to put it in context, right? You know, the general audience isn't following the kind of legal standards and basis that you would do this, but just let's put this in normal terms. If you've watched any show where there's some backroom shenanigans and someone gives some fake evidence to a judge to get a wiretap or to do other things like that, this is exactly what they're saying happened here. You had to falsify information to clear the hurdles to get extraordinary law enforcement remedies because you didn't actually have the evidence to get it. And that's why I think the intellectual honesty of the report is that this is a serious failure. I mean, this is ultimately unconstitutional law enforcement.
And let's go through that step by step. Let's go through the series of mistakes the FBI made. Even if maybe the Inspector General can't detect any pattern that might point to a motive, maybe we can. So we would like to introduce this new segment called "Could It All Be an Accident?" Boy, that was out of tenor.
That was really serious.
Dramatic.
Man, I thought this was going to be a game show.
Yeah, me too. Okay. I will take conspiracy theories for 500 and ensuring that I am removed from the platform. Okay, let's start with this. There's a couple of claims. Let's go through the claims. One of the claims is that Comey and others were exonerated. Democrats, left-wing media, they were quick to say that the IG report exonerated James Comey, right? We have an overlay here. The truth is that the Inspector General said the report did nothing even close to that.
Former FBI Director James Comey said this week that your report vindicates him. Is that a fair assessment of your report?
I think the activities we found here don't vindicate anybody who touched this.
Okay.
No, not at all. That's entirely incorrect.
They have a problem with reports here. What's going on? Like the Barr thing with no collusion? No, it didn't say that, and this didn't say something, and they're saying it says something. I don't know what to believe.
Barr is an example of collusion at the corruption at the highest level, as opposed to dozens of high-level employees at the FBI who systematically worked to undermine our presidency. Just be sure that you understand.
I just want to have it straight.
I want to make sure.
Thank you.
Let's move on to another claim, which I think is, you guys may remember this, but there were a lot of claims made, and it's kind of silly that we have to go back to this, but this is actually very important because of, I don't know if this is effectively falsified. We'll get some information that, to me, I'm not a lawyer. We have a lawyer seems falsified, but the context of this seems at the very least deliberately misleading some claims that people made regarding the infamous Russian peeing tape.
Oh boy.
When you told him the contents of the Steele dossier, did you get the impression it was the first time he'd ever heard those allegations?
Yes, and I didn't give him the briefing on the whole Steele dossier. My assignment was to brief him on a small part of it that was salacious and personal, and my sense was I didn't get a sense that he knew about those.
Why include that salacious part? If it was something that you thought was, not that necessary to the investigation, or did you think it was important that he knew?
We thought it was important that he knew, and I say we, meaning all the intelligence chiefs that put together the intelligence community assessment. We thought it was important that he know, because we knew, and we don't want to be holding that back from the new president.
Did you believe his denial?
I honestly never thought these words would come out of my mouth, but I don't know whether the current president of the United States was with prostitutes peeing on each other in Moscow in 2013. It's possible, but I don't know.
And by the way, after that interview, Chuck Todd's goatee cocooned into a butterfly and flew away.
That's nice. Oh, yeah, it's beautiful.
Oh, my jawline. So, here's the thing. In case, just to summarize there, Comey was saying that it was his duty to brief the president about the P tape, and then claims that he thought it very well may have been true. Let me explain this very clearly. The FBI not only knew that the story had zero corroboration, they knew that it was in fact a joke. The FBI interviewed Steele's source and asked him to corroborate the story, but the source, and I have a quote here, explained that his or her information came from word of mouth and hearsay, another quote, conversation that he or she had with friends over beers, and that some of the information, such as allegations about Trump's sexual activities, were statements he or she heard made in jest.
Oh my gosh.
Think of that for a second. All you needed to do was make a joke. And if it reflected badly enough on President Trump, the FBI would purposefully misrepresent it as though it was a credible allegation, all the way up to the director of the entire FBI, who would then brief the president himself on it. Half-Asian lawyer Bill Richmond, what kind of territory are we in there?
Well, especially when you get that they leaked that information in the same false spin, you can see it's clearly an attempt to not only get past the normal standards that you would have in triggering law enforcement, wiretapping, and other type of information, or other types of investigative tools, but clearly an attempt not to try and get to the truth. Right. If you really were trying to get to the truth, you would have gone to the quote, to the source, and asked the source. So here's the question that ultimately comes down to: did you forget to go check with the source? Right. Did you know you weren't checking with the source, or did you actually check with the source but not bother to provide that information? And the range of misdeeds there runs from grossly negligent in your duties as a law enforcement agency, and considering one of the top law enforcement agencies, to direct violation of your duties, knowing violation of your duties.
And you know what? I will say this: the more information that comes out, the worse it is for Democrats. That is a consistent through line here. Because I will say this, we've often said, like, there's probably a kernel of truth to it. I thought maybe there were Russian prostitutes peeing in a Trump hotel, and he knew about it and said, they like the water sports, something like that. Turns out there isn't a kernel of truth at all. It was entirely made up from a joke. The truth is worse than the very little leeway we were willing to give. I'd say scraping the bottom of the barrel, but it's a bottomless barrel. You're just like, you're way down into the dirt, and you're looking up going, is that the barrel I was scraping through? Is that there?
Wow.
Oh my God. That is far.
You know, on the show,
a well?
On the show Billions, you'd go to jail for this conduct.
This is true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, Paul Giamatti's goatee would cocoon into a butterfly.
As well. Oh, no, that one's a moth.
My jawline. Pop, pop, Jimmy. Okay. Another claim that they make, the Steele dossier wasn't central to the FISA warrant. Oh, no, wait. Sorry. Before that, I need to tell people to hit the notification bell, right? Hit the notification bell, because subscriptions don't mean a whole lot, but do subscribe to the channel. We have a new video. You've been letting me say this wrong this whole time, guys. It's 9 Eastern. It's 9 Eastern.
Who cares about their time?
What are you talking about?
It doesn't matter. Either way, join up at Mug Club, ladderwithcrowder.com/Mug Club. That's where you get all of the extra content. Some shows even hosted by my half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond. Of course, the whole Blaze catalog. And next week, Wednesday, big live Christmas show. It'll be a live stream with a discount. We'll be raising money for Christmas baskets. Okay, let's move on here. Another claim. This is important because you're going to hear this from the Young Turks. You're going to hear this from all of these left sources, MSNBC, that the Steele dossier wasn't central to the FISA warrant. Okay? Right. In case you've forgotten, maybe you recall that Devin Nunes, the memo, claimed the Steele dossier was an essential part of the evidence used to begin the FBI spying on Trump's campaign. The Democrats claimed that this was absolutely not true.
The deputy director of the FBI, McCabe, testified before your committee in December of 2017 that no surveillance warrant, no FISA court, to the FISA court would have been sought without the Steele dossier information. Is that true?
That's a characterization. That's not what Director McCabe or Deputy Director McCabe actually said. Well, I can't go into the details of what he said. Essentially, his argument was, we look at this as a complete whole. All the parts of the application are important.
Okay, so, of course, the entire leftist media, they piled on as well, claiming the Steele dossier was only a small part of the evidence. Definitely not essential. Non-essential.
Oh, that's funny.
Here's the truth. Not only did the IG report find that the dossier played a central, I want to read this as a quote, central, and people are going, you can't get off prompter. Today I am making sure that I am on this iPad because I don't want to get this wrong.
Do it.
When you're dealing with the FBI, kind of scary. Well, no, they can do anything they want.
They can make the mistakes, not you.
Found the dossier played a central and essential role in the FISA application. When it came to Carter Page's, by the way, alleged Russia collusion, the Steele dossier was the entire basis. It wasn't a small basis. It wasn't a portion. It was the only basis. Oh my gosh. There was no other basis.
I mean, do they really expect people to buy into this? Like, it's a convenient lie for them to be, now that they have the FISA warrants and now that we're down the road, to be like, oh no, that didn't matter at all. We didn't base it on that. Like, is anybody really buying that looking back at it, Bill? Like, I mean, legally, is anybody going to buy this and say, no, that wasn't a part of the deal?
Well, I think part of the question here is whether or not anyone's going to hold a legal standard to, Schiff and the others who have tried to say at one point, oh, look at how important this dossier is. Oh, no, actually, no, it wasn't important. And we really didn't put any stock into it. But that's actually one of the benefits here of our 24-hour news cycle and kind of the constant way that everyone's been pushing the questions, because on record, time and time again, Schiff and the others who have been pushing this, what was happening before, are being caught by their own words. And so ultimately, whether or not, Congress takes action or the DOJ takes action about those who pushed this, who got these FISA warrants illegally, essentially that's what it is. So if you falsify the evidence to provide the standards to get law enforcement tools, you have committed a crime. And so whether or not they're going to be held accountable is a question, but really it's the voters.
It is the voters. And by the way, I don't think they're going to be called on it from the media. That's the problem.
Of course
not. They're going to be called on it by this show. I don't really think they care, and that's why people want to remove this show. Good luck. Okay. Here's another claim that the Obama administration didn't use the dossier at all. This came out this week, that they didn't use the dossier at all in their intelligence assessment. Here you go. Listen to that.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings?
I like Gowdy, but he's very pointy.
Petitions, pleadings?
I have no awareness.
At all?
Complete, utterly unaware.
Did the CIA rely on it?
No.
Why not?
No. Because we didn't. It wasn't part of the corpus of intelligence information that we had. It was not in any way used as a basis for the intelligence community assessment that was done. It was not.
And by the way, they didn't trot out Gerald Ford's corpse. That's CIA Director John Brennan, in case you didn't know.
I'm going to sum up his answer. Maybe.
No, he was saying no. By the way, Gerald Ford, from Grand Rapids, Michigan, where I lived for a long time. There's the Grand Rapids, Gerald Ford Museum is in Grand Rapids. Did you know this?
That Gerald name is fantastic.
It's shaped like a pizza slice. So it looks really big from the front, and you're like, oh, it's a Gerald Ford Museum. I went in there. About halfway through, there's random Elvis exhibits. You're like, what is going on? It's just
and the narrowing of the walls.
There's narrowing, and like, hey, here's the king of rock and roll. I thought I went into the Gerald Ford Museum, and then there's a gift shop, and they're selling like Velociraptor pillows, and you're like, what the hell's going on? Like, listen, let's be honest. He didn't do a whole lot.
He's got to merchandise the guy.
It's fine.
So that was CIA Director John Brennan. He was saying that they didn't even know about the Steele dossier, right? The Obama administration, this is important to note, they all knew about the Steele dossier. It was actually included as an appendix in the assessment itself. Not only did they give the Steele dossier credit, it practically wrote the foreword. Even further than that, by the way, Comey and McCabe fought to have it play an even more central role in the assessment, proactively. So I want to be clear. I mean, I don't know at what point lying constitutes a crime. But I want you to research the sources for yourself. Okay, we have to cycle through this because we have Tim Pool coming up pretty quick to talk about the new YouTube policies. Here's another claim they make, that the FISA warrant was obtained completely honestly on the up and up.
I have total confidence that the FISA process was followed and that the entire case was handled in a thoughtful, responsible way by DOJ and the FBI. I think the notion that FISA was abused here is nonsense.
Okay, so this is pretty important, and let me know if it's a little confusing, and maybe, Bill, you can help clarify, because it's confusing for me sometimes, and I work in this industry. The FBI created fraudulent evidence to obtain the warrant. I know Bill's going to say, well, hold on, because I'm making a claim here. I believe that I can make that claim and substantiate it. Just pause, or if you don't have the time, fast forward 4 seconds. Carter Page, was actually acting as an informant for the CIA during these Russia meetings, The FBI knew that. So to be clear, the FBI omitted that information from the FISA applications and even used Carter's connection to those Russian contacts as evidence against him. Think of that for a second. They knew. So it's like, okay, go out there, you're going to have contacts, you're going to be an informant working with the Russians, and then afterwards we're going to hang you out to the dry and say, look, there's an informant with the Russians.
It's like taking Donnie Brasco and saying, sorry, you're in cahoots with the mob, you're arrested now.
Right. Do you think I'm a rat? Yes. If Al Pacino leaves his cross in the top drawer, that means he's going out alone to die.
Let him go.
Powerful scene. Powerful scene in that film. That's when Al Pacino wasn't playing an Al Pacino character. That's just when he was like actually good. Did you guys, by the way, see the recent movie with Al Pacino?
The Irishman.
The Irishman?
Yeah, The Irishman.
Did you see Al Pacino play Jimmy Hoffa?
No.
It's the most offensively bad performance. He goes from he's sitting there talking like this, trying to do a Midwestern accent here, and then he goes to you, motherfucker. I swear to you, like he actually said that in the movie.
Going back to him.
Is this Scarface? I don't know. It's like, I drew my inspiration from Dog Day Afternoon. But it's Jimmy Hoffa. I don't care.
Sounds like Bernie almost.
All right.
It's a little bit. Yeah.
So here's why I am saying this definitively, that they falsified information here. The FBI emailed the CIA to check if Page was working with them, okay? They confirmed that Page was a source, that Page was a source. But an FBI lawyer, and then I want to go to my lawyer, he's a lawyer, an FBI lawyer actually altered the text of the email to say he was not a source. To be clear, okay? It said was a source initially. FBI lawyer changed the text to read not a source. Not a source. By the way, lawyer now under criminal investigation. How far does that go, half Asian lawyer? Can I make the claim that that is falsifying evidence, changing the word yes to no?
I mean, yes.
Okay, all right, good.
Wow, that was so quick.
I don't want to run afoul of YouTube's policies.
But here again is the thing: is how are they going to try and spin this and say, oh, it was just a mistake. Oh, it's just a low-level lawyer for the FBI.
Right. I accidentally hit the delete button for SAW, and then I accidentally typed in NOT. I don't know. I spilled coffee in the keyboard. I don't know what happened.
It's a common issue.
That's the last time I use a Dell.
Gateway.
I mean,
only Gateway.
Is Gateway still around?
No,
nope.
No.
That's why it's funny.
No, seriously, he's under criminal investigation, and I understand the optics. There's the court of public opinion, but this is a lie. This seems like it would be something that could be prosecutable.
These are the types of things where, we call it the fruit of the poisonous tree as a legal term, right? If you, in the common parlance of like the Fourth Amendment and other constitutional issues, you have to establish that if early in the chain of creating evidence or taking certain action by the government takes wrong action, then the rest of the information that comes from that, the fruit of the poisonous tree, is now poisoned as well, right? It's tainted. Yeah. And here, when you look at Comey understood the problem with that. That's why back in December of 2018, he's saying, no, don't worry. The tree is not poisoned. Everything's great. We fertilized it with great stuff, except they fertilized it with bullshit. And that's the problem.
And then Eve tried to eat from it.
It was terrible. It was terrible. Over and over and over.
Eve.
Still angry about that, huh?
And then she wrote her autobiography on Adele. Okay. Since you can't, this is also something else because we have to get going. People say, if you can't say something better than the guy who said it before you, plagiarism. The good thing is, as a host of a late night show, it's not considered plagiarizing when I just run a clip. So let's just hear Senator Ted Cruz sum this up perfectly.
A lawyer at the FBI creates fraudulent evidence, alters an email, that is in turn used as the basis for a sworn statement to the court that the court relies on. Am I stating that accurately?
That's correct. That is what occurred.
That seems pretty damning here. But so I have a question. Like at some point, we talk about public trust a lot, right?
Yeah.
But with the tax thing, when they were saying it's not a tax, it's not a penalty for the healthcare deal that they were doing, there was no penalty for that. They actually went to the Supreme Court, argued against themselves, and nothing happened. This, on the other hand, like you said, Bill, like there are legal ramifications, or very well should be, for them lying to get this evidence into court, right? To get the FISA warrants and then to go on. At what point does the public say, I just don't trust the FBI, the IRS, Congress, everybody? I don't trust anybody. Who do you go to now?
Right. Who do you go to, for example, if the FBI and CIA, if they act this way?
But here's the thing I want to say. There are organizations, and I know people in the FBI and have spoken directly with them who are dedicated to the idea that the FBI is nonpartisan, that regardless of the party. So when people say, I think this is the issue where people take this and say the deep state is a conspiracy that makes it crazy. But when you look at the core of it, the nugget of truth is, are there individuals within large organizations that are seeking to take every benefit of the doubt against the president and oftentimes willing to nudge over the line, change a few words, do a few things that snowball into something very bad from a public PR perspective or something false in order to get it. So do I believe that there's some wide-ranging conspiracy with thousands of individuals with the FBI? No, I don't think so. I think the day-to-day people who are there in these organizations are working to do good by the American people. It's these few individuals that need to be investigated deeply who are trying to shift, using the power they have to change a few emails, to leak a few bits of information, to withhold a little bit of key data in order to create a vision of what they want in order to impact the presidency.
Yeah, but not low-level people either.
No, not even low-level people.
These are powerful people within these organizations.
Think about it. The more powerful they are, you don't need 20 powerful people to make a big impact.
Exactly.
You only need one powerful person to send one email that's altered.
Well, and especially with the complicit media. You only need one powerful person in the FBI who knows that the Russian peeing prostitute bit is a joke to leak it to Chuck Todd Caterpillar Mouth, and he goes, we're going to run with this. It only requires one person. Yeah. This is unprecedented, though. This is unprecedented to have these people in these positions of power over, as you've said, other good Americans who want to serve their country in these bureaus, in these wings of our federal government to obviously one extent or another, depending on which division we're talking about right now. This is unprecedented for people wielding that kind of power to be complicit with the media who don't care to do any fact-checking. Right. It's hard for us to fact-check their claims because they never list them. Right. That's why we try to list them
No sources anywhere.
If I'm not mistaken, I think we have one more clip, right? Yep. Okay, let's go to one last clip and then go.
There is such a range of conduct here that is inexplicable, and the answers we got were not satisfactory, that we're left trying to understand how could all these errors have occurred over a 9-month period or so among 3 teams, handpicked, one of the highest profile, if not the highest profile case in the FBI, going to the very top of the organization involving a presidential campaign?
That is a great question. And that's why it begs, could this all be an accident? How could these inexplicable errors, or at least they haven't been explained yet, all occur going up to the very top of the organization? Was it just a sloppy investigation? Or do all of these errors, it could just be a sloppy investigation, except when you account for the fact here that all of the errors tilt in a certain direction, one that's anti-President Trump. Let me ask you this, can you find anything to the contrary in the last 6 months? Do you remember like you were to go back to what you were saying, remember the outrage over Barr's review of the Mueller report? People demanded that he be ousted for his conclusion obtained from the totality of information available. They saw that as corruption at the highest level possible. But what about all of these missteps, or sometimes deliberate inaccuracies in the most powerful bureaus of government? Nothing? And again, I think what's most important here is every time we get more information, it gets worse for the Democrats right now in these impeachment proceedings. Yeah. That's why I think they're handing Donald Trump the election. I wish this weren't going on because I think it makes a mockery of our entire, not only judicial system, but the entire system of American government. Schoolhouse Rock should be rolling over in its grave right now. This is absolutely unreal to me. But like you talked about with the IRS investigating people, the IRS being used as a tool from Barack Obama to audit conservatives. Here's one thing, too, that I think, because you can audit a ham sandwich, right? That's the old kind of adage people say, you can audit a ham sandwich and find something wrong. And that's kind of true. There was a story, someone just lost his home because he was $8 under on property taxes, right? That's scary to everybody, where you go, well, there's a certain amount of power where the government can find something that you've done wrong. Here's why this is scary, though, because if they don't find something that you've done wrong, they will make it up. Whether it's Russian pissing prostitutes or changing from did know about the Steele dossier to did not know about the Steele dossier, this has gone beyond someone making a mistake and a political enemy capitalizing on it. This has gone to the most powerful wings of government, arguably, in Washington, D.C., now deliberately fabricating or misleading investigations for reasons of political expediency. It is terrifying, and it sets a terrifying precedent that we should all be concerned about. Speaking of terrifying, Tim Pool is coming up. I'm uneasy about the hat.
Me too.
More so YouTube's policies.
Mr. Duncan is my own money. What did you do on November 8th vote-wise?
100 coffee beans in my sternum. I've been watching CNN all morning, and I'm going to do it for 16 hours.
My own money has bothered me. I have one everything, every dollar shirt, a TV, turtle dove, yeah. Mr. Duncan is my own money has bothered me. I have one everything, every dollar shirt, highly nutritious, yeah.
Hey guys, what's up?
We got an idea.
A bright idea.
Lay it on me. Well, it's a commercial for Black Rifle Coffee Company.
Yeah.
We're going to show everybody how good the coffee is by beating your black ass. Yeah, coffee's so good, you're going to forget we just beat your ass.
I don't know.
Come on, soak up the brains of the idea we got going. Yeah, come on, man, you going to be the hero. I'm going to hold your arms back while Keith punches you in the stomach. No, I'm going to punch him in the face, as I told you.
No, I don't think any of this is necessary. It's not going to fit the
gonna
brand.
work, trust me.
Well, we can run it by Steven, but I don't think he's going to be into it.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Trust me.
There he is right there. Let's go ask him. Yeah, go ask him.
Black Rifle Coffee!
Oh, that was lovely. So go right now to blackriflecoffee.com/Crowder. Enter the promo code Crowder. You'll receive 20% off your first order. Listen, Black Rifle Coffee is a veteran-owned company, and they actually do a lot of good work for veterans. It's not just lip service, and that's all great, okay? I understand it. That being said, I'm pretty persnickety about my coffee. Maybe I'll do some coffee videos in the future. I'm pretty nerdy. I weigh it out. I do espresso. I do AeroPress. Anyone out there, you tell me your favorite method of making coffee. If it sucked, I would have nothing to do with it. Their coffee is pretty damn good. I really like the vintage rose. It's the green bag with the, can I say that? Do they have it? I want to make, okay, Black Rifle, if you're watching, don't sell all of it. Save some of it. That's been my favorite roast. So blackriflecoffee.com/Crowder. They have the best coffee and the best mission of coffee companies out there. Don't buy Maxwell House, because you'd be a dick.
All right, everyone, this is a stick-up. Don't do what I, are you gonna come?
All right. I don't know what this was. This would be a horrible way to shoot. Can you imagine if you went to the range?
It's like an old Gatling gun.
It's very cool.
Have you ever actually just like, when you breathe at the range, how much the sight changes? Could you imagine trying to hit a target like this?
Yeah, they'd pull you off and be like, sir,
That's
step away from the range.
The sideways. I'm like, there's no way to do this accurately. So our next guest, you know him, and I mean, most of you love him. Not everyone loves him. Not everyone loves every guest. I should stop saying that. You know him. Some of you like him. Some of you can take him or leave him. You follow him on the YouTube at youtube.com/TimCast. He has several very popular channels. And he also, beforehand, he was correcting me. He has something, and he's been working through it. He had an ulceration due to anesthesia. I'm not entirely sure. Tim Pool is here, and you sound like death. What happened with your voice box?
Well, my voice is just dying because I work every single day. I have no days off, so you talk a lot, and I do. Yeah. But thank you for letting everyone know about my dental work.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that was in confidence. He has a canker sore, ladies and gentlemen. He brushed his teeth with aim.
I had a root canal, and I got lucky, and the anesthetic resulted in an ulceration. So it just means my mouth hurts.
Oh. That is
I can deal with it for a week.
No, that is terrible. I bit through my lip one time from jiu-jitsu, and then it turned into a really, really, really bad canker sore. That's what canker sores are, microscopic kind of abrasions, and then it got really bad. But when you say ulceration, it makes me think of Vincent Price in the Alice Cooper album. He goes, "This is the brown recluse. His bite causes creeping ulcerations of the skin. Isn't he delicious?" That's in the album. For people who haven't heard Welcome to My Nightmare, that's my only familiarity with the word ulceration. Tim Pool, everyone please follow him. You released videos this week regarding the new YouTube guidelines. I don't want you to speak out of turn at all. So explain to people who don't know, kind of let them in on what's been going on, because you've been in the loop in Silicon Valley and with people at YouTube, Google, and these companies for a long time.
The rules are arbitrary. They'll ban you for no reason. There you go. They should,
these ulcerations have really lent themselves to brevity.
I can't talk. It hurts too much, so they're going to ban you. Got it. But the new rule is basically your fault. Thanks, Steven, for being snarky with other YouTubers. But no, I apologize. Honestly, I gotta say, obviously, they're responding to what happened with you and Carlos Maza, and the first and most important thing, I think all of your fans recognize, they said you broke no rules. They punish you anyway.
Right.
I think the new rules they're putting out are completely pointless if that's what they're going to do. And they've done it before, and they'll do it again. And they've done it to me, and they retroactively apply rules to ban channels. We get it. We get it. It makes no. It's pointless. Yeah. But for the sake of clarity, what they're saying now is veiled threats or like animating some kind of violent activity directed at somebody is a bannable offense or guideline strike. But the most alarming is that they're saying repeated harassing behavior that doesn't violate the rules could constitute suspension from the YouTube partner program, and it could result in guideline strikes and eventual, termination. They're basically saying what you did.
That reads like an @ reply when you put it like that.
So what happened with you and Carlos is you were responding.
Don't say the name, please. Stop.
Beautiful embrace.
Stop. Well, so here's the thing.
Okay.
You can criticize people.
Right.
But apparently they're saying if you criticize someone too often,
right,
that could be harassment. And the rules specifically state that what they put out, you're not breaking the rule, but you're butting up against it. So it's like, what? I'll tell you what, man.
I don't understand that as a rule. It's like at a pool. It's like no running next to the pool, but jogging maybe?
Well, no, they're saying, right. It's like no running. Brisk walking is okay, but if you brisk walk more than enough, then we arbitrarily decide, then we're going to tell you are running, and, that's bad, so you're bad.
And then you say, wait, hold on a second, you guys have a pool? They say, no, we don't. We're just putting this out for future reference.
but here, I'll let some people in on a big secret, right? I know a lot of people at Google. I've known a lot of people for a long time. Back in like 2011, I had Google people reach out to me because of the live stream work I was doing. I've actually consulted Google dozens of times. They have liked me a lot. We'll see how this goes in the future. But they've given. I've had like 4 pairs of Google Glass. I even had someone from Google send me a cutting-edge iPod Touch back in the day. Like, wow. I know some people there I have respect for, and I'll tell you what I think is happening based on what they've told me going back to 20.
Did it come with that YouTube album? Sorry, U2.
Yeah, the one that they put on there every time.
I think it did, actually. I think it did.
Of course it did.
Oh, that was a bad day for everyone who was using iPhones. We were loyal for years only to get, hello, no! Sorry.
It was right around the time they were phasing out the iPods anyway.
Right.
But hey, I was flattered. It was a YouTube iPod, and I got like a thing and a thank you note. And these are good people. I think they're good people.
Very nice.
Some of them have left, and probably for some obvious reasons. Things have been changing a bit.
Yeah.
But back in the day, this is back down 2013, I was told by someone at Google that they felt Netflix was displacing them, and that's what their concern was and what they were targeting. I said that's not true. Your market is not Netflix. Your market is a community. It's individuals, but they don't see it that way, and they never have. So I think if I was going to make a bet for the long term of what's going to happen. You look back at the data, November 2010, the top YouTubers, 80% were homegrown personalities, started on YouTube, got famous.
Yeah.
Today, around 20%. They're slowly replacing the top channels, and it's not necessarily on purpose. Obviously, if Taylor Swift is now interested, she's going to get millions of subs, nothing you can do about it.
Of course.
But YouTube's changing the rules in ways that will negatively impact a lot of homegrown behavior and content styles. We already saw one guy, famous YouTuber this morning, had a video taken down because it was bullying, when in reality, it's like snarky, comedic, roasting.
Is this the video about, I think we'll have an overlay about Leafly from iDubbbz? Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was, and he specifically said, he specifically was addressing a guy named Leafly. I'm not super familiar with all YouTubers, but I do know them. He was specifically addressing Leafly for making fun of an autistic person.
Yeah.
And so then he went full bore and ironically bullied this other YouTuber who was bullying people with disabilities. And the one who was bullying the disability bullier had his video removed. Do I have that correct?
I think it's Leafy. I think you got it.
Yes.
I got to be honest. I know of them peripherally as well. I'm not like somebody who follows their content, but the way it was framed was it's a bullying video, and YouTube, it's gone. So here's another thing about the rules that I find worrying. I mean, first of all, like I said, rules don't matter. If they're going to ban you, they're going to ban you.
Right.
But a veiled or implied threat. What if I said, oh man, you better be careful around those Antifa people, man. If you wear a Trump hat, they're going to come and they'll mess you up, if you know what I mean. Are they going to claim that I'm threatening you by saying that? If I say like, hey, I'm warning you, man, you got to be careful when you do that. Someone might come and hurt you.
Right.
I'm not. That's a lip. So sometimes a warning can be a veiled threat. That's how they. So
yeah.
The rules are arbitrary. If here's what I think's gonna happen. YouTube wants to be Google's version of Netflix. You got Apple, the new streaming service. You've got Hulu, and what does Google have? YouTube. So they have a bunch of what they would view as like not top tier, high-profile celebrities.
Right.
It's obvious when Jimmy Kimmel gets in the trending tab and you don't, for instance.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Kimmel can talk about things that we would get banned for talking about.
Right.
So we get it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. And I think it also, by the way, is kind of sad because this is something that I had to sort of connect with, and I'm sure you have as well, younger people who watch this show. And our biggest demographic on this show is, I don't exactly know how they break down, but like the bulk is between 18 and 35. Between 18 and 35. Then our second biggest demographic is between 35 and 45. And then I think after that, it's like the 13 to 18-year-olds. So which is the exact sort of reverse mirror of like Fox News or most conservative content. And when I meet young people who are familiar with the show, it's very different. A lot of older people, they go like, oh yeah, I love your videos. Young people, they see YouTubers as movie stars. To them, that is the big show. More young people wanted to be YouTubers than actors. And to me, sort of, let's disregard this whole idea of the censorship or the culture of intimidation for a second. To me, that is undervaluing your greatest asset, as this entire generation looks to these people as the most important content creators. They would care more about someone like PewDiePie than a George Lucas. They'd be more impressed.
Yeah. So YouTube is, here's my bet. My bet is in the long term. The rules will continually be built to favor top-tier, multi-million-dollar studios. It's not just the rules, though. It's the whole structure. It's the algorithm. You want to know why I work every single day with no day off?
Because you're part Asian.
YouTube, yes, that's exactly it.
Work ethic.
It's just ingrained. Well, no, it's because the algorithm favors those who produce the most.
Right.
And so this benefits big production studios who can crank out, a half-an-hour TV show every day, but not... most YouTubers will spend a week on a video.
Right.
Because I do, off-the-cuff political commentary, it's really easy for me to record a video on my thoughts.
Yeah.
They hate that. It's not what YouTube wanted this algorithm to produce.
Right.
They thought, if we make an algorithm that benefits daily, long-form content, we're going to get The Mandalorian. We're going to get Game of Thrones. Instead, they got dude in his bedroom ranting about the Democrats.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yeah.
But they can't just get rid of everybody. It is a big portion of the platform.
Right.
So I think the rules are slowly being tweaked to make it harder and harder until people burn out, give up, or get banned.
And that's actually something that people are studying now. And I will say this, a lot of people go like, oh, you're complaining. YouTube burnout is an actual, it's a new phenomenon from not just YouTube, but social media, people who work on social media, who are social media sort of figure, I guess you would say what would you call them? Public figures, not figureheads, but people who are big on social media now. It's a new class of performer. But typically speaking, performers did not have to cut a bunch of content every single day. Tom Cruise goes to Prague, shoots a film for 4 or 5 months.
Runs around.
Then he runs around a whole lot, maybe fractures an ankle because he had his bird bones. And then after that, he gets a nice long break. And now they're studying this idea of, YouTube burnout. And this is because people cannot sustain it, independent content creators. And that's one thing too, we've done this show, a lot of people's like, I don't know how you do it. This is why Mug Club is important. It's how we sustain it, because we have 15 people here on staff. The reason the quality of the production value is good is because we invested first kind of planning for this, going, this is the way I always thought it was going. It's expensive and it requires a lot of work from a lot of people. Most people can't compete if they're coming up right now and don't have something like that yet. It's scary.
Yep, but I'll tell you what, man, for me, maybe it's because you mentioned I'm part Asian, I'm just insane. If YouTube, I don't necessarily believe that every change is intentionally like, we're going to destroy, Tim Pool and the political people.
Right.
But I think, for me, I'm going to run on this treadmill until my feet are bloody. I'm not going to stop. So I record 6 segments per day. It's about an hour and a half of content. It's not, Ben Shapiro does like 3 hours. He's got me,
Yeah, but he does it on radio, and that's, you're just talking, and then someone sells an ad for catheters.
But that's basically what I do. I pull up articles, I comment, and I give my thoughts on them. So
yeah, most people wouldn't want your workload, and I will say this too about for me. What I always used to really be upset about, I wasn't as naturally talented. I'd be like, oh man, I got to work 3 times as hard, and I realized that was kind of my skill set. My talent was that I was willing to work longer and harder, and that's something that you do as well too. I mean, I know obviously you're a smart guy and you're entertaining, so people want to watch you. But that is a skill set that is valuable. That being said, when people go like, I wish I could be paid to talk to a camera. Well, do you wish you could be paid for a 15-hour day for 5 years of your life without any breaks? Because I know that's what Tim Pool goes through, and almost every top YouTube creator, unless they had a viral video about cats. There's an exception for every rule. Nothing we do will ever top it. nothing we do will ever top turtle humping a work boot, and we accept that.
I'll throw in some good little politics here. I think one of the things that separates me from like your average leftist is that I recognize the importance of grit. There's a TED Talk from this teacher, and they actually they controlled for factors like intelligence, race, gender, income, and they found the only thing that guaranteed success was perseverance, your willingness to not give up. So that to me, when you ignore that fact, you create this world of oppression where the only reason you failed is because of the color of your skin. Not true at all. It may be harder, it may be easier, who knows? Obviously, a dude who gets $1 million loan from his dad will have an easier go of starting a real estate business than a guy who grew up in the gutter. But the only reason you're going to succeed is because you actually refuse to give up.
Right. No, I think that's true, and I know that you can't say this about yourself, but I've talked with you quite a few times off air, and I know that Tim Pool has an unbelievable work ethic. And listen, this whole industry is littered with the corpses of people who couldn't keep it up or refused to keep it up. Someone like you does. I appreciate that. I respect that about you, and I'm not even going to do a web extended today because I know your voice is very hoarse. Start using Sensodyne. My dentist told me that. It's not an endorsement, not a paid, but I got rid of my canker sores. YouTube.com/TimCast. Mr. Pool, I hope you keep people posted, and I hope your channel continues to grow and thrive, sir.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll be back after this. I think I have a canker. Where's that?
If I were the benevolent dictator of the world, I would legalize bestiality where you are giving, where you are pleasuring the animal.
Oh, no. And I heard there was a debate on this. There's no debate. I'm ending the debate. I don't have my gavel with me, but 999! No way. No way.
Like, how much can a man withstand a hot girl saying over and over again, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna say. Because, like, so there's, like, was the case that we covered where there was, like, a guy or a girl or something that was pleasuring a horse, and the horse came to a conclusion, right? So who got harmed?
That looks like the longest arm in the world. And right there's no way I would hook up with him. I think, no way, man. I don't want to find out what's going on up downstairs.
I mean, if you really asked the horse, did you mind? The answer's got to be, no.
I'm Cenk Uygur, and I approve this message, right?
Live read time. Let's say you're a firearm owner, and I am. This is how you combine two sponsors. Walther, meet FLP. FLP, Walther. Walther, FLP. I own Walthers, you guys know that, and of course I have some firearms that aren't Walthers, namely shotguns and AR-15s. Anyway, you're a firearm owner, I assume, if you're watching this show, which means you've probably taken steps to defend yourself. That's great. But what do you do to defend yourself legally if you have to use your firearm? A lot of people don't even think about this. That's where FLP comes in. If you have to use your firearm and you have to deal with the fallout, FLP has a toll-free number that you call night or day. A representative will guide you through the critical moments after you've defended yourself or your family. They have a network of attorneys ready to help you. They help with everything, in dealing with the authorities, to bail, to making sure that you get your firearm back. It's like $9.95 a month to make sure that if you ever actually have to use the wonderful firearm that you've invested in, probably customized and tricked out, but you actually have to use it for its original purpose, that you don't get burned. So go to firearmslegal.com/LWC. Register now. That's FLP at firearmslegal.com/LWC. If you have a firearm and you ever need to protect yourself or could need to protect yourself and you don't have this kind of you're an idiot. You're an idiot.
With Crowder Ranger Panties. Buy yours today at louderwithcrowdershop.com.
That was called the Bing, in honor of Bing Crosby beating his children mercilessly. In case you didn't know that. That's because this, by the way, thank you so much to Tim Pool.
Thank you.
This is one of the weeks where we don't have a Web Extended interview for people who are on Mug Club because his voice was really pretty rough. This is a Bing Crosby signature pipe.
Oh, that's nice.
Do you know why?
Why?
He used to want to use a Canadian, that's called a Canadian pipe, actually. This was my grandfather's pipe. So you see how it's straight stemmed?
Yeah.
So it's straight stemmed, but the Bing version was a little bit longer with a curve because for a while he wanted to take all of his headshots with his pipe. And so he wanted it to be further out from his face and below his
like a
chin. Yeah. So this is how you would do it.
Oh, I see.
Hear that? And then he was a monster. No, have you ever read like a biography on Bing Crosby?
Monster could sing,
so
no.
He had two families, right? And his first family said that he was just a monster, this horribly abusive father. I think all of his kids from his first marriage killed themselves. Wow. Or several of them. And then in the second family, they just said he was the best dad.
Wow.
Ever.
That's weird.
And none of this came out in Holiday Inn.
No, it did not. None of it. Bells of St. Mary's.
No, none of that, yeah. He looked like a nice dad.
Yeah. I'll ring you like a bell. He's 12. I don't care. By the way, that reminds me, of course, next Wednesday, the stream is next Wednesday, our big Christmas show. It is live, a live stream where we will actually be in a studio with 200 people raising money for Christmas baskets. It's going to be a variety show. We'll have not only jokes, Christmas sketches, we'll have singers, some surprise guests. Santa Claus will make an appearance with some children. We'll be raising some money, have a promo code, a discount. So if you haven't signed up for a mailing list, it is available in Dallas, Texas, exclusively to Mug Club members first, and the attire is formal. We will be wearing tuxedos. Yes. We want it to be a very nice, and I know you're thinking, is there a punchline coming? No, we just want it to be a nice, classy Christmas event with wildly offensive jokes. That's next Wednesday, and then we'll be off until the new year. So, here's what I wanted to talk about today a little bit, and this is going to be tough. So, if you do have children in the room right now, I would ask that you, not that there's anything inappropriate, but it could be some disturbing material, a little bit tough, a little bit intense for kids. I told you guys that I wasn't going to talk about after Hopper. I had to put him down last Friday. By the way, I don't know if you remember, there was a betting pool out there as to how many days of work I would miss when Hopper passed. So whoever bet half a day, you win the pool. You know exactly who you are. Doesn't bother me. I just think it's sad for you. But you did win the cash prize. So I'm curious to see what the betting pool is up to. Yeah. So I'm not talking so much right now about, for those who think you can't watch this or you'll get choked up about Hopper, so much as the interaction that occurred between my wife and I as a husband. And I want to do this for wives, maybe next week or maybe when we come back, a show or a close just exalting wives. But right now I want to speak to what I know to husbands out there and of course fathers. But I'd like to speak specifically to husbandry because I think it's something that's very underappreciated and it's a very, very important role in our society. And one that I've really, I'm being married for 7 years, come to understand more recently. So when we had to go and we had to put Hopper down last week, and I can talk about it now. It was very, very hard. His last act of defiance, you'll be happy to know, was he turned his nose up at an American Macro Lager beer as part of his final meal. He looked to my Belgian triple, like, gave me that look, and I said, okay, poured it out, drank all of it. Wow. So the very last thing he did was be a diva.
Beast to the end.
Thank you, Hopper. So this is something, as a husband, and Hopper's my first dog, and it's the first dog that my wife and I have ever had together. But as a kid, I just dreamed of dogs. I've talked about this before, so we were really, really close. But he was also really close with my wife. And so not only the last year, because of the lymphoma, so we've had some time, he was in remission to think about how this would end, but really for the entirety of us owning Hopper, I always thought of what would this day look like. I think everyone who owns a dog thinks about that, right? Because their life is so much more finite than ours, at least how we view it. And I never wanted to bring it up because I knew how much it would upset my wife. So for years, I would think about it, I would go, and sometimes my wife would say, well, what's wrong? Because I would be making a face. I make two things she knows what's wrong. If I would make a face where I was really upset or sad, she's like, okay, it's thinking about Hopper. Or if I do this, she's thinking about when I broke my knee. Because I relive it, and it actually, I go, and I wince, and I grab my knee. So for a long time, I used to think about it, what it looked like, what I would have to do, and how I would protect my wife from it. And I'll tell you, I pictured it many times. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was picturing holding Hopper when they put him down with my arm, because he always liked to lay underneath my right arm, right kind of underneath his neck here, his big old noggin that he had, and I would rub his belly. That's kind of what we did when we used to sit there together. And when we went in, we put his bed down, and it was a very reverent sort of, it wasn't just putting some animal down. The vets who weren't even working that day, technicians, came in because he had touched a lot of lives, and I appreciate the sentiments that you've sent in. But when I went in at that point, my wife was already there. And I had pictured this at least 1,000 times in my head, how I was going to hold him, how I was going to soothe him, make sure that I was strong until the end, because the last thing you want to do is send him out when you're emotionally unstable. But my wife was there, and she was holding him. And so it changed right away to, without even thinking, I wasn't holding Hopper. I was clutching my wife. And it was something that occurred to me, I guess, not so much at the time, but afterwards, realizing that I think dogs teach us a lot about how we interact with people. The way we interact with dogs often reflects how we interact with people. And so, this situation with Hopper he made me a more selfless person in understanding that other people come first. And at this point, I realized that Hopper was taken care of, my wife was making sure he was taken care of. She was the one who needed to be taken care of at that point. And before I move on to talk more about sort of being a husband, this is something really bizarre that I've never experienced before. They were really nice when they put Hopper down. They put in the what do you call it? The anesthesia or whatever it is that puts you under, and so you fall asleep. And then they put in whatever the chemical is in the IV that stops your heart. But we didn't know when the heart had stopped because we were holding him and trying to kind of maintain composure. This is the most bizarre thing I think I've ever experienced. We were in a room. There were other dogs there. We only knew when Hopper had gone because the other dogs knew. You ever hear silence it's so quiet that it almost hurts your ears? That's what happened. It got so quiet, and I looked over, and only when I saw other dogs sitting up, doing the avoidance face, and they started kind of whimpering. That's when I said, okay, it's done. It was just that's an aside, but it was a really weird experience. A lot of learning experiences. My wife and I went away for the weekend to spend some time with each other and get out. But I bring this up because I have a friend. A good friend, a good man, who the same last week was going through something much tougher, a miscarriage. And it was a miscarriage that was far enough along the trail that they had to check for a heartbeat and induce labor. And he's been taking care of his wife for the entire week afterward because she hasn't been doing well physically. She's been having some actual physical ramifications that have required her to be in and out of the hospital. And I know that I don't know that his wife knows this, but he did. He said the baby was far enough along that he buried it in the backyard and put down a flower because this was important to him and this wasn't the first time he had been through this. And he discussed some things with me that his wife didn't know about, that he was protecting from her. And this is something, this goes to the idea of toxic masculinity. Let me just kind of state this in the outset. We say this all the time, the toxic masculinity. It's okay to cry. Men feel that you can't cry. Why can't you just be open with your emotions? Why are men so aggressive? You know why? Because we love our wives. If you love your wife, you make sure that you try to be strong. Now, there's an appropriate time to cry. There's an appropriate time to grieve with your wife, of course. But it's not all the time. At that moment in time, I couldn't go, oh, I had to clutch my wife and make sure that she was fine. At this moment in time, my friend had to be the husband. You don't think he wanted to sit down and cry? You don't think he wanted a moment for himself? And without getting into specifics, because I promised him I wouldn't, every step of the way, he was doing whatever he possibly could for his wife, not for himself. That all stems from toxic masculinity. The same reason that we get angry, or the same reason that we're more aggressive and there are more wars, is because we fight them to protect the people that we love. Not everyone. I get it. Some husbands are assholes who come home and are abusive. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about husbands who love their families. They will be, without a doubt, the most toxically masculine people you can imagine. And you know what that is? You know what that is? That's a gift. It's a gift. It's the gift that we can give to women. Because, let's be honest, in most areas, women, you've got us beat. Right? If it's the idea of sort of what's perceived as multitasking, I know some people believe that to be a myth right now, but let's call it neural flexibility. Women can take more sensory input and deal with it. That's why they make better mothers. For that same reason, it's why men tend to... Why do you think men make up 94 or 97%, depending on the source you're using, of workplace deaths? Did you ever think about that? Do you think we chose to line up to be roofing or go into the coal mine and we wanted to be that statistic? Do you think it's women have been signing up and they've been unfairly, prejudicially? No, It's a gift to you because we, for the same reason that women make better mothers, we tend to be task-oriented. And because of toxic masculinity, we can focus, block out some of the sensory overload, and get it done because that's how we're hardwired so that we can do it and be stable for you. It's the only gift that we can give as men. At least it's the only gift that we really think we can give as men. Remember when think about it this way. Remember when you were a kid and you had issues going on and things felt unstable? Assuming, of course, that you have a decent family. I'm not talking to everyone, and that's why it's so important to me to try and encourage the family unit and for fathers to own up to their responsibilities and be fathers. People say, why don't you talk about child support and alimony? You know why? I get it. A lot of guys get a raw deal. But as a man, I see a lot of deadbeat pieces of shit out there who don't treat women right. And they give the rest of us a bad name. So I try to focus on making men better. Sorry, you might be offended, men's rights activist. I understand where you're coming from, but this is equally important. I want more dads because remember when you were a kid and nothing seemed right, everything was unstable, you were trying to find your footing, you always thought, okay, at least, oh, dad's coming in now. He's gonna make it okay. He's going to make it all right. Guess what? Your dad couldn't make it all right all the time. You know that now as an adult. Can you make it all right all the time? No. But it's that gift of security, of assurance that you can give to your children or to your wife as a man, as a head of household, that means a lot. And and trying to own up to that expectation, that's toxic masculinity. Listen, you've heard that line from As Good as It Gets, you know, women, you make me want to be a better man. It's true. Women make men want to be better men. Better men than ourselves show us how to be better men. And the reason that we do a lot of this is because we ask ourselves how we can serve. We can serve by doing hard jobs and making up 94% of the workforce. We can't serve by making a casserole. We can't serve, not all the time, by being as sensitive and as nurturing as you can. And that's why sometimes when we know that you're more sensitive and we get that maybe you are more emotionally inclined and in tune and someone who's more agreeable, there's not a lot I can offer in this situation, but I can hold my wife while we put my dog down. You know what? Maybe there's not a lot I can necessarily do around the house, but I can make sure that I lay it on the line to ensure that this house is there for my wife when she gets back. And sometimes that gets us a little bit pissed off. Sometimes that gets, sometimes we do bottle it in and yeah, you feel like you have razor blades in your stomach. But what is the alternative? That we don't try to live up to any standard? That there's no standard whatsoever for men? You know what, we've never, by the way, let's talk about this. We've never once asked men, when we talk about toxic masculinity, for women in the military. It's never come up. Not because we don't love you, but precisely the opposite. Because the whole reason that men would go into battle and fight wars, or the primary reason, I don't want to speak in absolutes and get fact-checked here, but some people will say it's for religion or war for oil. No, but a big reason, a primary motivating factor, is to protect our women, not send them to the front lines. Why? Because that's how we can serve. That's how you, as a husband, can serve. That's as you, as a father, can serve. I'm sure the same applies to children. We don't have any. We know that we don't have any children yet, and we don't have any children yet. So I'll just talk to what I know as a husband. This is important. Not only is it important for men to learn how to be better men, but it's important for you to know how and what it is you're trying to achieve and what it is that right now they are trying to tear down. Right now, the problem, I think, the rejection that you are seeing of men who are trying to better themselves, and they reject this notion of toxic masculinity, is that they are rejecting the removal of standards that we have held men to precisely because it's the most effective and largely the only way that we can serve. And the reason we want to serve is not because we hate women, not because we're chauvinist, but because we love you. That's toxic masculinity, for better or worse. You gotta take the good with the bad. All right, next week, Christmas show on Wednesday. We'll see you then. It'll be festive.
It only takes